Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's high school crunch time, another week, and now into the second round of the playoffs. Johnny Sapp and Dom D'Angelo here on ESPN Sports, having a fantastic time, fantastic week to be here, and a lot of fun coming up. I mean, we did guess wrong, very wrong, in that D3 bracket, so we're going to switch things up a little bit, call some different brackets here. But Dom, how was the week? How are you feeling? How's everything going?
It was a good week for sports. There's no doubt about it. A lot of good matchups in the football world and a couple other postseason events going on. We got boys soccer and girls volleyball still going on. So busy time of the year in the state of Wisconsin, no doubt.
Without a doubt, and high school football continues to roll across the state in all divisions. And we've been keeping a close eye on things. I mean, I can't necessarily say close. We haven't guessed real well. I think we're about 60% maybe, not even. If I do my math, I'm not real good at math. Never been a real big math guy, but we had 16 games and we got, I think, 5 wrong. So, yeah. So, not terrible, but not greatest. For picking the brackets on High School Crunch Time here once again on ESPN Sports. Make sure, if you are watching along, to like and subscribe. We do appreciate everybody who does that. And you can follow us on Spotify as well, as we do post on Spotify, keeping that content loaded and ready for you for every Friday night, heading in, and Saturday now with the playoffs heading forward. But let's talk about it. Let's get started with Notre Dame. Notre Dame takes out Pewaukee, a team that we had some concerns about. Obviously we weren't real sure on how that team would play. We had Max Pierce on the show last week. He was talking about it a little bit, the mentality just going forward, another game. And it certainly was, as you get, the Tritons took out the Pewaukee Pirates, I believe they are actually. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like the Mermaids taking out the Sailors in Pirates of the Caribbean, or the Pirates, excuse me. But if you want to be called the Mermaids. But, the man on the show last week, Max Pierce, 5 for 7, 120 yards and 2 TDs, very consistent once again. Christian Collins, this is the big number here, ladies and gentlemen, 31 carries and 309 yards. Like, my goodness. He had 5 TDs in the game, but he did have 1 fumble. We're going to give him a little crap for that just because we can and have a little fun with it. And then moving forward, we saw James Flanagan, a guy you really like in that offense, in that Triton team. Obviously, I believe you said he is a Notre Dame, correct, commit?
Yep.
Notre Dame commit, but he came in big, 3 catches, 89 yards, 2 TDs. Obviously, the touch end zone was a great place for him. But now the Tritons, they've got a tricky one again, and a team I don't know a ton about. I'll be frankly honest with you, but they did beat up on Whitefish Bay, and they are coming in with a win, obviously, in the playoffs, is that Port Washington team. But first, we'll talk about what did you think about that win for Notre Dame?
I think this is the best that they've looked all season, to be quite honest with you, because there was so much build-up coming into this game about, how the seeding kind of shook out. Pewaukee's not your typical 7 seed, and they put everything that was being said in the media by guys like us to
Well, we're
rest.
just talking heads once again.
Just talking heads. That's all we are. 20 first quarter points. They were up 41-7 at halftime, which, I mean, there was no question that they played with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, maybe felt, I don't want to say disrespected by their seeding. A 2 seed still a really, really good seed line to be at. But they definitely played like they had something to prove, and they sure did. And, you went through the offensive numbers, but defensively, too, they were all over it. They had 2 sacks, 1 from Abe Augustine, 1 from James Flanagan. They had 3 interceptions, 2 from Charlie Hornacek. And Abe Augustine had the other one. So defensively, they really, really stepped up, made Owen Dauberstein, the Pewaukee quarterback, uncomfortable all day. And offensively, this is just kind of who they've been. It's been defense and Christian Collins carrying the way for them. And, man, did they step up in a huge game. And it's always the first game of the postseason is usually the toughest one. They did not show any signs of the moment being too big for them. They played really well this week.
Yeah, and without a doubt, and we talked to Max Pierce last week. If you do want to look at that episode, see what he talked about, it is all obviously in our content bank here on ESPN Sports. But Max kind of went into the week talking about that they're just going to play it as another game, find their rhythm, and get things going. And it looks like they certainly did that, and a little bit more, putting up a 50 number. And then on the ground, Christian Collins, I mean, just a beast. No other words to describe it. But now they do have another challenge, and it's going to be against Port Washington. Port Washington did take out Whitefish Bay, and pretty handedly. But what are your thoughts on this game coming up for Notre Dame, and what sorts of things are coming ahead for them?
I think these two teams are pretty similar and kind of they want to establish the ground game. Just looking at the box score for Port Washington last week, very heavy ground approach. Cal Lewis is their quarterback. 9 of 17 last week, only 92 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, but on the ground, 118 yards and 2 scores. So definitely a threat in the run game. They, as a team, ran it 42 times for 225 yards. And defensively, they had a pretty solid game as well. Coming up big in the fourth quarter, there they pitched a shutout in the second half, which was huge because they were down big at halftime. So once they kind of got their footing going, they were able to get back in the game and eventually win it. The key for them this week, I think, is going to be you can't fall behind against Notre Dame because they're just going to use that run game and use Christian Collins to the fullest extent. So you got to keep it close. You got to keep it close early because then Collins, we all know how great he is, but he won't be able to just chew the clock like Notre Dame has been able to do in a lot of these second halves of games.
Yeah, and I think what you said, run game, establishing that. But again, Notre Dame has such a presence where they have James Flanagan, they got Charlie Hornacek in the receiver column, and a couple other names out there. But you guys can pass too. Doesn't have to go through the ground, so if the ground game gets stuffed. If I was coach, I would have no problem going to the passing game. Obviously, Pierce is pretty consistent quarterback. We've talked about that before. We're going to continue to talk about that as long as they keep making this run and keeping their season undefeated, which is something to be noted. Haven't lost a game all season, but they do look good, and I think they got a really good game coming up here for them. Once again, to prove their point, because then after that, it could potentially be Grafton, which is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, for sure. This is the first season that they finished the regular season undefeated since 2008, and they're aware of that. They know they came close last year. They lost the second game of the year last year to Wanakee, who's in Division One this year. They're looking to do something that hasn't been done in a long time. I was looking it up a couple of weeks ago. The last time that they went undefeated in a regular season and won the state championship in the same year was all the way back in 2003. So it's been quite a while for them, and I think the home field advantage is going to play big here. I do, because getting that second home game is such a huge thing in the early rounds of the postseason. There's just a comfortability factor with it there. So the Chick-fil-A gang that we talked to a couple weeks ago
It's
can
the
go.
Chick-fil-A fellas. It's not a
Chick-fil-A
gang.
fellas. Yeah,
Not a
Chick-fil-A
gang.
fellas.
Not a gang.
Chick-fil-A fellas. My apologies.
You got to get them
Can
those shirts, though. We got to
we
get those
do.
shirts. We got to get some plain like this one, a plain white tee. I don't know why I didn't dress up anything at all today. Just wearing a plain white tee, but we can get Chick-fil-A fellas right on the front. I mean, that's a good call sign there.
Gotta happen. So they can do their thing, and defensively, if they can duplicate what they did last week or get somewhere close to it, they're going to be really, really tough to knock off because once they get that pass rush going like they did, they were all over that passing game, and they forced turnovers, which was huge. And they were willing to open it up a little bit. They had a couple shovel passes here and there from Max Pierce. I hadn't seen that all season long. And then you got, like you mentioned, James Flanagan, Charlie Hornacek in the passing game. So it's going to be definitely a good test for them. I do think the home field advantage is going to play a factor. I don't fully know where Port Washington is located.
It's over just north of Milwaukee.
Okay, so it's a ways of a drive for them. So that could factor into it as well.
Yeah, it's probably, I don't know, 45 minutes north of Milwaukee.
Okay.
Not too far out. Beautiful town. If you drive in there, it's kind of a one-way drive in. It's a big port, shipping port, and they got like a whole bunch of restaurants right down there. I actually like stopping in there on my way down that direction. To get a little snack or two. And I just want to give a mention, we did give the Chick-fil-A shout out. Chick-fil-A, if you'd like to sponsor us, we're always welcome. Looking and open for sponsors. Dom D'Angelo and I, obviously, always looking. And City of Port Washington, if anybody wants to give us a little, maybe a coupon, send it our way. We'll appreciate that as we make a ride down there eventually one day. But let's move on. let's move on. I made my sales pitch here, and let's talk about Nina. They take down Milwaukee Hamilton, and I did spell it on the form Hamilton because I put two A's on accident, but 42-8. Van Evenhoven, pretty good. He was 9 for 9 with 94 yards and 1 TD. And then in carries column, it looks like I screwed up on this one, but 9 carries, 106 yards, and 3 TDs for Grant Dean, the man, myth, legend. And then the passing game was really spread out in this contest. Nobody really kind of stood out in a receiving column. And that was one thing I noticed that was a little weird because usually you have a couple names kind of pop out, a little bit more yards. But, I mean, if they're coming with a diverse attack, that's perfect for a game which they got coming up against Kimberly, which is going to be a big one.
Yeah, I like seeing that a lot, getting a number of different guys involved. And to your point, Kimberly, they played them earlier this year. So if they can get multiple guys that they have to worry about offensively, that's going to be huge for them. Defensively, holding a team to 8 points is always great. They did have an interception from Andrew Carlson. No sacks, which was a little bit, going against a team like Kimberly this week. You'd like to see that sack department get a little bit up there. I don't think, if memory serves correctly, I don't think they had a sack in the game that they played against Kimberly earlier in the season. So it's been very much a coverage scheme for them. But when you've got that diverse attack coming with, I mean, Grant Dean only carried it 9 times, but he averaged basically 12 yards a carry. So
just a beast.
When you can do that, like, you're gonna be in good shape no matter who you play. And this sets up for a really interesting matchup and a rematch, actually, from a game that was what week was that we took
I think it was like there? What do you guys play? 12 weeks? No, 10 weeks.
I think it's 9 or 10 regular season.
So then it would have been like week 7 or something like that.
It was week 6. They played them week 6. Yep. So. And that was at Nina. This game should be
this one's going to be at Kimberly. But let's first move on to Kimberly before we make a prediction here. And we're going to write that one down because we're going to fill out the D1 bracket today, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are not accurate, but we have fun doing it. But let's talk about Kimberly here. Braden Ellison, really a weird game. 3 for 10 and 14 yards. I mean, really struggled in the contest against Appleton North. They did win 35-16. Keegan Plow, 10 carries, 60 yards, 1 TD. And Makers now take on that Kimberly team. Who do you got in this one? It should be a good one in that D1 conference. And it should, at Kimberly, it's going to be a fun one. And I'm sure that Nina Faithful is going to come out in bunches this week.
The Kimberly crowd came out in bunches when they played at Nina in week 6. So I am going to take a little bit of an upset here. I'm going to go with Nina. I like what I'm seeing more so out of them to close out the season than I have Kimberly. And to your point, Ellison, really uncharacteristic. Only 30% completion percentage, only 14 yards, 2 interceptions. Like, really struggled in every facet. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns to kind of counteract that a little bit. But this was a dogfight at halftime. It was close at the half. The Appleton North maybe playing them twice maybe helped them a little bit. Kind of having some familiarity with what they were going to do. Charlie Olson, the quarterback for Appleton North, had 208 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. So I think, it also could be, that's also one thing we should mention, the weird scheduling that came out with this and the bracket and the seating and everything with them playing each other twice in a row, because it can be really hard to do that, especially when you're trying to maybe save something. I know we had this conversation, I think, last week about, like, do you save some plays, do you not? So maybe they weren't quite as sharp as you'd like to see them. And Nina right now is hitting on all cylinders, so I think I'm going to go a little bit of an upset. I'm going to take those Rockets.
What's the score prediction for you?
Oh, it's going to be close again. I'm going to go 31-27.
Okay, high scoring.
Favorite, yeah, I think it was close in that range last time. I think 29-28
yeah,
was the final
it was really
score.
Close like that. I'm going to go a little bit less scoring, but I'm going the same way. I like the way Nina is playing football a lot better than I like the way Kimberly is playing football. Now, we did talk in the beginning of the season that Kimberly is kind of the evil empire of Wisconsin, but they seem, ever since that loss against Nina, just be a step off. They struggled against Kaukauna that week after, I believe. I believe it was Kaukauna in
So.
one of the closing weeks. And then Appleton North, they had to play to finally close out the season. Again, a weird game, not really a blowout game for them, which should have probably been a blowout game. And then coming in this week, they did get a little bit better of a win, but still nothing really commanding. 35-16 is not really telling me that you're commanding, and with Ellison really struggling in that passing game, not quite sure what's happening there for the Papermakers, but I think I got to give it to Nina too, and I'm going to go 28-24 in favor of the Rockets, because I think the Rockets do have the talent there with Grant Dean. They can use that run game, and then on the passing game, Van Evenhoven's right there. Yes, he didn't have the greatest of play or games the other day. Van Evenhoven, 9 for 9 is pretty good, but 94 yards, I think he can do more. And with the spread attack on receivers, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do, because if you're Kimberly, who do you line your number one receiver up with? I mean, right now, I do not know. That it's kind of an open book for them, and I think Nina gets the dub.
Like it. One last point on this one. I remember we talked about it leading up to the first matchup that they had, how big a role special teams was going to play in the game. Well, special teams was a difference. There were 2 blocked extra points for Nina, so that could have made a difference if those 2 go in. There was a muffed punt in the game, and then there was a game-winning field goal from. It was I don't remember the exact distance. It was close to 30 yards, I think.
Yeah, it was like 26, I think.
26, something like that. So, special teams is going to play another huge factor in this one because it's going to be that close. But I just like the momentum that Nina's got going more so than Kimberly does. They've won their last. What am I looking at here? 6
Kimberly's
games.
sneaking by right now.
Yeah, they just to your point. They just look a step slow, in kind of since that first game, because their first few games, 35-14 over Bayport, 35-7.
Yeah, they were playing dominant football.
They were blowing people out, and then the last couple of weeks they had that 29-28 loss, and then all of a sudden, close game with Kaukauna, they kind of pulled away at the end, 38-20, 10-9. Really weird game against Appleton North. Played Appleton North again last week, really close at the half, and then kind of, garbage time kind of pulled away in the fourth quarter. So I think Nina, if you come in with a good game plan, you kind of hit them early, because they've been prone to struggle with that a little bit. That's what we saw. You've got a really, really good shot to win that one. What would be a really... can you even call it an upset at this point? I think Nina's just playing better than them at this point.
Well, technically you can, because Nina's ranked or seeded lower than Kimberly, but I would say right now Nina is playing better football.
It's a 2 versus a 3.
It's still the lower seed.
Yeah.
Basic math.
It's not a 12-5 upset like in
No, it's not like
March
a true
Madness.
big blowout when it's going to blow your mind. But let's move on. We did talk about this team already. Kaukauna. They took down Pulaski 45-13. Brian Schaefer 10 for 19, 113 yards and 1 TD. Aiden Reardon, he's been pretty good all season. He continues to do that. 21 carries, 159 yards and 3 TDs in the contest. And Dom, looking at the passing game as well, Weinberg, 4 catches, 51 yards, and 1 TD. The Galloping Ghosts, we keep talking about them. You guys played them early in the season, and then they had a sneak out win against West Appear, and just kind of a scramble of a game. But they're really a solid team in that D2. And now they got Beaver Dam. And I always like Beaver Dam, because I just imagine a beaver as the mascot and everything. Like, that would be a fun mascot in the D2 playoffs. But what do you like to see out of Kaukauna in this Pulaski game? And then who do you got for Beaver Dam and Kaukauna?
Well, what I really like seeing is that they're just, similar to what we talked about with Nina, how diverse they are on offense, getting a lot of different guys involved. Ron Schaefer had another good game in this one. 113 yards, no picks, and a TD toss. So that's always good. that run game was dominant, man. 314 yards as a team. You had Reardon with
Well,
159 of them and
considering
three
Christian
scores.
Collins had 309 himself,
Well, I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
he's a different animal.
he really is. But Kyle Kress, the backup there, 11 carries, 117 yards, and two scores. Like that'll work, and so that's what you got to do to win these games. Because as the weather gets colder, it's going to be a bit cooler this weekend. So that should play to the advantage of the run game quite a bit. Special teams wise, William Griesbach didn't miss an extra point. He made his only field goal. So really, just a really well coached attack from Coach Mansfield. That's what he's been doing all year, his entire career there. And to your point, Beaver Dam is an interesting one here. They're 9-1 on the season. They did win
Are they the
the,
Beavers?
I believe so. Yeah.
They have to be.
If they're not,
That's
that's
gonna be really
crap.
disappointing.
Yeah. Beaver Dam won the East Central Conference 9-1. They beat Menasha 35-21 in their first game. Eli Bryant is their quarterback, 13-20, 165 yards, two TD tosses. He also had two touchdowns on the ground. So they're another one where they get a lot of different guys involved. Jeffrey Frund had 7 catches for 93 yards and a score. Braden Morrissey, 3 catches, 28 yards and a score. They're definitely more pass heavy from just kind of looking at stats here. Only 24 total attempts on the ground as a team, and 10 of those were from the quarterback. So it'll be kind of a contrast in styles because Kakana definitely wants to air it out, and
Yep.
so it's going to be interesting to kind of see how each coach wants to handle this clock situation here because they both have the ability to score quick. So maybe Beaver Dam has to rely a little bit more on that run game this week. In the what seed were they're the 5 seed, so it'll be kind of an interesting coaching matchup to see how they want to play this because Kakana with some of those receivers over there, Parker Shoe being the main one, he's had a really good season. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of want to how to play that out.
Yeah, and I think Beaver Dam's always been a really strong school at athletics and football, especially. Actually, went to college with a couple guys from Beaver Dam, but yeah, they're really always a solid program, solid team, and I think it'll be interesting to see just how the Galloping Ghosts kind of react to this game because I think they're going to get a little bit of a shock value with a different kind of style team. You mentioned more of a passing game. They haven't really seen that a ton. Yes, they did play West Pier and saw them and played against them, which is a heavy passing team, but this is going to be a little bit different of a team. They do have a run balance in there, which is going to be different. But let's take a score prediction here for Kakana Beaver Dam in the round 2 of the D2 playoffs.
I think I'm going with Kakana. I think it'll be closer than maybe some people give it credit for because Beaver Dam has had a good season. I'm going to say Kakana wins it. I'm going to go 24-17. I think it'll be close. I really do. I think Beaver Dam is good enough to give them a game. And like I said, especially if they kind of control the clock and in certain situations, I think they maybe have a chance at an upset here. I'm not picking it, but Kakana potentially an upset alert here.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pound the alarm quite yet. I think Beaver Dam, once again, like you said, is good. I'm not going to hit that golden buzzer for them. Just not going to use it right now. You only get one try at it in the playoffs. But I think Beaver Dam does put up a good fight. I think they, keep it pretty close for most of the game. But Kakana's really been a good team all season. Going to continue to do their game plan and all those sorts of things. So I'm going to give Kakana the win. And I'm going to go, let's think here. Because I want it to be close. But I also want to show that Kakana, had some control in this contest. So I'm going to say Kakana's going to get, we'll say 27. And then Beaver Dam, I'm going to go 16.
Okay.
27-16. I think it is a good game, but I think in the second half, Kakana just prevails. They work on their workhorse, or obviously take their workhorses, including Reardon, and just kind of feed them the ball. Feed me Ezekiel Elliott, even though he's been running like crap. Not a personal.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? I mean, it's just like how about them Jets?
Ooh.
But yeah, yeah. There was. If you watch the NFL, I hope you do. It's been an interesting season for them New York Jets and them Cowboys. But let's move on to Bayport. They beat Milwaukee Bradley in Bayport kind of fashion, 56-14. And a good one. Stevens 5 for 8, 80, or 93 yards, 4 TDs, 1 interception. Moon 6 carries, 128 yards, 2 TDs. And Lefebvre 2 catches, 51 yards, and 1 TD. Now they get an interesting second round here because it's a team they're kind of familiar with. And it's going to be that Sheboygan North squad. I believe they did play them before, correct?
I can fact check that, but I know it's weird with the FRCC and the split conference thing. I'll check their schedule really quickly.
Yeah, if you take a look there, I can kind of give you some filler, but I believe they are part of that Northern Conference, and Bayport did see them once this year, and it was a pretty handled game. Let's see what Dom comes up with here as we keep moving on here on the High School Crunch Time Show. Once again, ESPN Sports. If you'd like to join the show, make sure to tweet at me. You can message Dom on Instagram, or you can email us at ESPNsports@gmail.com.
Doesn't look like they played them in the regular season this year, at least. I feel like they have played them recently, though. But
yeah, it's a familiar foe.
Familiar foe. All these FRCC teams kind of play similarly. So once you play one, it kind of seems like you played all of them, seemingly.
Yeah, because now I believe actually Sheboygan North's in the South. You guys played them.
Yeah, we played them week 3.
Yeah, and I mean, I really don't see Sheboygan North upsetting Bayport unless a miracle stars align, miracle things happen for them. I think the Pirates just really good ball squad, and they're going to keep marching. I'm going to give the Pirates 35, and I'm going to give Sheboygan North 14.
I was thinking the same thing. I think it'll be maybe interesting for a half, maybe. I know when they played, Sheboygan North played at Notre Dame, it was tied at 14 at halftime. So they got out to a really quick start in that one, but just didn't have enough gas left in the tank to kind of finish the job there. You also got to remember when they played at Notre Dame, Christian Collins didn't play in that game. So I was actually thinking 35-14 too. I don't think Bayport will have too much of an issue with Sheboygan North, but I think they're good enough to score a touchdown or two.
Yeah, and not dismissing, Sheboygan North, obviously. Bayport's just kind of been a powerhouse recently. Not going to toot my own horn. But Dom knows I like him.
Well, yeah, just the improvement from Sheboygan North this year has been, like, this season, regardless of what happens on Friday, this has been a wildly successful season for them. They went 4-6 last year. They're 7-3 this year. So, you got a tough one against the Pirates on Friday, but a huge uptick in the result column for them.
Alrighty, and then we'll move on here. Just kind of wrap things until we go to the bracket predictions. West De Pere beats Oshkosh North 60-34. I mean, that's a lot. And obviously, we were talking about Grayson all season long. 34 for 55, 534 yards, and 8 TDs and 1 interception. And
it's got to be some sort of record, right?
I mean, he's got to be up over 1,500 yards on the season.
That's nuts.
That is nuts. Evan Ott, 23 carries, 82 yards, and no rushing touchdowns for him. Brock Story, 7 catches, 164 yards, 2 TDs. But I texted the backup quarterback, good friends with him, of West De Pere, and now they're on the road in round 2 of the playoffs. They got to go Sun Prairie East and take on them. Which is just crazy to me, given they're undefeated all season. They're holding a 3 seed, ladies and gentlemen. and going on the road, and Sun Prairie is not a short drive. It's a couple hours.
Yeah.
So I said, is this one going to be one where there might be a potential upset here? Dom, what do you think?
I'm kind of thinking what I'm kind of picking up what you're putting down here because Sun Prairie East played a Schwabenon last week. 55-20 was the final score, so they score points and a lot of them. Max Raymer, the quarterback there, 275 yards, 4 touchdowns in his own right. He also had one on the ground. They are not afraid to spread it out. Leading receiver was Cooper White, 6 catches for 60 yards. So, Sun Prairie East has had a really good season, 7-3 overall. They did drop their first 2 games to Verona and McGuanago, and they've been kind of rolling since. I think just from what I've seen out of West Superior, I think I'm gonna go with the upset here.
Really?
And yeah,
Oh, yeah. Upset would be West Pier.
yeah. So I think I'm gonna go with the Phantoms because I gotta give respect when you throw 8 touchdown passes in a game. That's
Yeah, I mean, you
something.
can't dismiss
That's
that.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, and defensively, they didn't play quite as well as they probably would have liked. I do know Oshkosh North does have a good offense. Just kind of seeing them, I saw them in person the final week of the regular season, and it looks like they really struggled, as has everybody this year with Dalton Clark from Oshkosh North. He had 9 catches, a buck 42, and a score. So they got to tighten up a little bit in the secondary, but I think when you got that offense and that plethora of weapons, it's kind of you need 2 stops and you'll be in a good spot. So I think I'm gonna go with the Phantoms. Call me nuts on this one.
No, I wouldn't call you nuts. Um, Obviously, I don't think the road's going to help West Pier. I think a home environment for Sun Prairie East will give them a little bit of an advantage, but I don't think it'll be enough to take down the Phantoms. I think, Grayson obviously can do things that a lot of QBs aren't doing right now. They got a lot of different weapons on offense with Evan Ott as well. So I'm going to take the Phantoms here in this contest, and I'm going to give it. You got to put in the 40s somewhere with them. They've been consistent with that. So I'm going to say 42-28 in favor of the Phantoms, and they get the upset down there and, keep moving on in the D2 playoff bracket. What are your thoughts?
I think that's pretty close. If that happens, and Kakana wins, we would have a rematch of that wild game in week 2 on a neutral site, which would be awesome. So, just because I was watching that one live, I would love to see round 2 of that. But Sun Prairie East, really good school, really good program down there with Coach Kaminsky. So it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to say they're a tick below 40. I'm going to go 35-21. I think that they just ultimately have too much firepower for Sun Prairie East to try to keep up with.
Okay. So we got those predictions there, and those are been kind of the teams we've been covering all season long now. They may drop down, or we may drop a team if they do lose, but we'll see what happens here, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to turn our attention to the D1 bracket this week. We kind of filled out the D3 bracket, didn't do great on it. We're not going to boast about it at all, but we tried our best. But let's start here with the D1 bracket here, and we've got at the top. It's going to be Waunakee, and Middleton. Who do we got?
I'm going to say Waunakee. I saw him last year. I don't remember how many seniors were in that graduating class from a season ago, but they're really, really well coached, really tough. They play an old school brand of football, so I think they get the win over Middleton in round 2. They played just a tick better in the first round, 28-14 compared to 19, so they are capable of scoring a couple more points, I think.
All right, now this was actually an interesting one. This next matchup, Madison Memorial and DC Everest. Now the reason I say it's interesting is because DC Everest upset Hudson.
Yep.
And Hudson was holding that 2 seed. And Hudson's been a really phenomenal program. And they continue to show up and play really well. But let's take a guess here. The number 3, Madison Memorial, against DC Everest. Who you got?
I kind of think that DC Everest might be a little bit of a team of destiny here.
The Cinderella
So
team here?
I think this might be the Cinderella team in the tournament. So they scored 50 on a really good Hudson team last week.
Yeah, they
And
showed no mercy.
gonna say didn't skip that many beats doing it. Logan George 15 and 19, 255, 4 touchdowns. I'm gonna go DC Everest because they and Blake Blankston had 28 carries for 238 yards and 2 scores. So they score a lot of points, and quite honestly, they really they shut out Hudson in 2 quarters of the game. They allowed 14 points in the second quarter, and then 7 when it was over in the fourth quarter. So they know how to play good defense, and they have a really balanced offensive attack.
Yeah, and I was going to go same direction. DC Everest just with a big win over Hudson. You're riding that hot high tide, and you're coming right in. And, I mean, yes, it's going to be a car ride for them to Madison Memorial. But I really do see them winning this contest here. DC Everest always been a solid program. I'm not going to say they've been, the greatest, but they're always showing up and playing good football. I'm going to have to agree with you, Dom D'Angelo. But let's move on here once again. We got Marquette and De Pere.
I think Marquette will take care of business. I saw De Pere in person a couple times. They got some good players over there, but Marquette is just a phenomenally coached program down there. So I think they take down the Redbirds. I hope the interception count rises for De Pere though, because that'd be kind of a fun number to keep track of.
Yeah, it has been all season, but I know I kind of repeating everything you're saying, but I think the birds die here. Eventually, all birds' life come to an end.
Yeah.
Whether it's by a rock, or naturally, or falling out of the nest as a baby, the birds are going to go down. I think Marquette's a really good powerhouse, and I think we got a really good matchup coming up. Not this week, but next week. But who you got? I think we kind of talked about it.
Yeah, I'm taking Bayport over Sheboygan North in that 2-6 matchup.
Yep. So that would bring that following week, given we're right, Marquette and Bayport, that 1 and 2 seed, which would be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be good.
Now let's move to the other side of the bracket here. We got Franklin and Muskego. Who you got? I think you got to go Franklin.
I think so. I don't remember what Muskego finished the season at as far as rankings go.
They were 2 at the beginning of the season, but then they fell a little bit.
Yeah, 6-4 overall on the year. I know they played a pretty tough schedule, so I think Franklin will probably win this one. Like I said, I know Muskego's played a tough schedule, but I think Franklin will take them down.
Every time I hear Franklin, I think of the turtle.
The turtle, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know what that show was called. Was it called Franklin?
I think it was just called Franklin. I think so.
He went to school and he was friends with other animals.
Yeah, and I think wasn't he the only one that had a fun name? They were just called Bear and Beaver, and and he was just called Franklin.
I have no idea. I just know I keep seeing that meme of Arthur. Remember Arthur?
Yeah.
Whatever he was, wearing the headphones, and his ears are on top, but the headphones are on the side of his head.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, listening to that really well. And then we did kind of talk about this already. Nina, Kimberly, we both chose Nina. I think that's pretty a consensus decision. We kind of want to see Kimberly go down. Just saying, not against them, but just saying. And then let's move down here. Verona versus Arrowhead. So we got that's a 1 seed versus a 4 seed. So the 4 seed's doing pretty well.
Yeah. I think Verona's just the better team. They didn't. Granted, it was a lower seed with Kenosha Bradford, but Arrowhead was in a little bit of a tight one with Hamilton. So I'm gonna go Verona on this one.
And I'm gonna flip the script on you.
All right.
I'm gonna go with Arrowhead. I think they got something there. Not really
What?
fact based. I didn't really look into it too much. I'm just gonna go on a limb here, but I'm gonna write that down. Dom, and you could show off all you want, Dom, if you're right. But if I'm right, there's gonna be a party involved
Oh yeah.
and lots of celebration. Maybe a mariachi band.
Oh wow, you're gonna go that far? Is there gonna be a cake too?
Well, for my birthday, I would like a mariachi band to follow me around all
Oh.
day and just
Can you
like
do that?
I think so. I mean, you got to pay a
All
lot of
right.
money, but even for a few hours.
Just feel like the man for a few hours? Yeah.
Well, no,
Not that
just
you're
go to
not,
like the mall or something, have a mariachi band playing, and and just people wondering what is going on, and there you are walking around.
I
Even
can't wait. I can't wait to watch you walk into like Shopko or something.
oh,
If Shop.
if I hire a mariachi band, I'm walking into Notre Dame Academy and walking to. I'm gonna go to the. I'm gonna tell Matt, go to the front desk and be like, "What class is Dom in?" And I'll be like, "Hey, Dom," and I'll just embarrass you.
Uh, and I will proceed to be like, I don't know him. He is a weird guy that I do a podcast with.
Yep,
So
that's right.
he's just walking around here.
Oh, don't act like you don't have fun. But yeah, I
We
will.
do.
I will show up. Hey, and then maybe they can teach you a few things in band. Like they're
Oh
perfect.
yeah.
It'd be really good. It's because it's a mariachi band, a quartet, like 4 people.
I think they're usually a smaller group like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're not a big group. I know that, but I couldn't remember it's like 3 or 4. I know in SpongeBob. Remember the SpongeBob movie when they're in the
Yep.
yeah, I
Hmm.
think it's 3 there, and those
Yeah, I
guys
think
really knew how to play.
gonna say it's usually 3 or 4. I think.
Yeah. So yeah, you may see a mariachi. That's what I want for my birthday. That'd be sweet.
So are you gonna conduct them then?
No, they just play songs as my day
Oh,
goes along, and like if I trip, they play like wah 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 something.
I can't wait to see this
Because can
happen.
you be mad if there's a mariachi band constantly following you around? Yes, if you have a headache, maybe. Um, but
Eh.
it's your birthday, and then go to like a restaurant. You don't even need people to sing because you got a mariachi band playing. Yes, I will pay them for their lunch break and that sort of thing. They are people too, um, but I hope they can help me out and play me some music throughout my day. And if I can if I can ask Matt to give me a visitor pass to Notre Dame Academy, I'm walking right into your class, gonna embarrass you in front of all
Uh,
your friends and fellow peers.
I need this to happen when you're a head coach one day.
Oh, you know what team I'm gonna be head coach for?
Oh yeah, and you're gonna have the mariachi man on the sideline.
Oh, it's gonna be a whole band, but they're gonna play mariachi style.
Well, that works too.
Yeah, it would be more fun. And then finally, Racine, Case, or McGonagall.
McGuanago's looked really, really good all season, so I'm gonna go with them. Looked really dominant last week.
Yeah, I was gonna go McGonagall as well. So we only have one debatable one, and it's Arrowhead versus Verona. Um,
It's a decent pick there. I'm not switching, but that's probably the one that I would say has got the most out of the ones that we agreed on. Probably the one that I would agree that's probably the most likely for a chance at an upset here, other than DC Everest. I suppose is their 7 seed.
yeah, DC Everest. I got like the Black Eyed Peas. I got a feeling
Yeah.
they may make a move there. I mean, we do have an upset listed there. Just coming off that win against Hudson's huge. And, well, now we know a little bit more about both of us. Do you have any final thoughts before we do kind of wrap things up here on the show and talk things through? Any grievances you have right now that you just need to air? Are you a celebrator
Oh,
of
man.
Festivus?
No. Well, I can tell you a story about my weekend if you want. I was down in New Orleans this weekend for my sister got tickets to the Taylor Swift concert down there. I did not attend. So
Why wouldn't you
apologies to
go?
any. Well, because have you seen the ticket prices for
Oh,
this
yeah, I know
stuff?
they're insane. It's like
There,
going to the
it's
Super
a
Bowl.
lot. It's more. It's probably more. So I didn't go, but she went there. She had a blast. But I was walking around Frenchman Street, um, on Saturday night, and I was amazed at the diversity of cultures that's going on down there because there's so many different genres of music and street musicians going on. So I walked into a restaurant where they had a live band going, and they were playing like some chill, vibe kind of jazz music, and then all of a sudden start playing Prince,
There you
and I'm
go.
like, oh, all right. And so they played Purple Rain and Little Red Corvette, and it was awesome. It was super cool. So then I go down to another spot, and there is one band where the first song that I remember them playing was "This Is How We Do It," and then the next song they did was "9 to 5" by Dolly Parton. So there is, if you've never been to New Orleans, I highly encourage you to go because there's never a dull moment down there, and if you go during Halloween or Mardi Gras, you're bound to see some stuff because people take Halloween very seriously down there.
Well, there is a lot of like voodoo and that sort of crap down there too, I
Well, that's
believe.
true.
Yeah. A lot of that fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great trip. Especially if you're a lover of music. You got Taylor Swift. You didn't actually go, but then you got some Prince, and then you
Hmm.
got Dolly Parton, and I don't know who the artist of "This Is How We Do It." This
I
is.
just remember it's like a huge, like,
I think
thing,
it was a
like
one-hit wonder, wasn't it?
it may have been.
It
I just
had to
remember
have
that was a
been.
huge deal in like the, mid 90s with like MTV and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of up there with a couple of those like little kid birthday party musics.
Yep.
Yeah, and grown up birthday party music's mariachi bands. See how
Well, they should be. Yeah.
they should be. Everybody should have a mariachi band fall once around in your daily life. But yeah, we got another week of high school football, high school playoffs, and Dom, I really think it's gonna be a good one. Once again, so ladies and gentlemen, if you did watch the video all the way to the end here, we do thank you for your attention. Obviously, Dom and I here every week keep on talking football, keep on making predictions, and keep on making misses. And I keep on being the jokester of the group, but we have fun doing it. Once again, please be sure to like and subscribe, and tweet at me, message Dom on Instagram. Our handles are down there below, and if you would like to come on the show, send us an email, give us a text, send us something. We are always welcome to have guests. You've seen a couple guests come on the show, and it makes it a little more fun and a little more creative. But for signing off today for High School Crunch Time, this is Dom D'Angelo over to my left, and I'm Johnny Samp. Now, we did use the Brady Bunch box there. So have a great night, and we do thank you. We'll see you next time and next week in the closing weeks of the high school football playoffs.